Hello, and welcome back to our Squad Leader tutorial series. We are currently covering vehicle movement and combat, especially against infantry. In our last several videos, we dealt with the anti-tank weapons represented by the various counters, like bazookas, panzerfausts, and Piats. One weapon which was so common that it actually is considered possibly present in every German unit is the panzerfaust. The trick with the panzerfaust is that it might always be available after September 1943. It gets better as the war progresses, but most of all, the German player has to remember to use it. With that in mind, we will go to our example. The first thing the German player needs to know is what year and month the scenario is taking place in. This battle is taking place in July of 1944 for example purposes, but in the scenario you should read the entire description prior to placing the first piece down. The first thing always mentioned is the date and location of the scenario. You may recognize these combatants from a previous video. In that video, the German squad did nothing to try to attack the Sherman tank. They had hoped the anti-tank gun would have handled the Sherman tank, but it failed and they got blasted by a critical hit. This time, the infantry are going to attempt to fight the tank themselves, because the anti-tank gun failed. It is the German prep fire phase, and the infantry want to try to get a panzerfaust. The first thing that has to happen is they have to try to get one in position to fire at the tank. This is called the panzerfaust check. On a final die roll of 1 to 3, the unit will have a panzerfaust in position ready to fire and must take the shot. If the final modified die roll is a 4 or 5, they might have a panzerfaust, but they could not get it to fire. On a die roll of 6, the unit is pinned. Even units that do not pin normally, like fanatics, heroes, and berserk, pin in this instance. If the unit is already pinned, it breaks. If it cannot break, i.e. be heroic or berserk, they are casually reduced. The modifiers to this die roll are the following. There is a +1 to the die roll for this panzerfaust check if the scenario is occurring August to September 1943, is being attended by a half squad or crew, or the unit is CX. There is a +2 DRM if a single man counter is attempting the panzerfaust check. There is a -1 DRM if the scenario is taking place in 1945. So now, with these modifiers in mind, what would the 4, 6, 7 squads have to roll to have the panzerfaust, and what would our 10-2 leader have to roll to have one? We'll wait a few seconds while you think about it. If you came up with a 3 for the squad to have a panzerfaust, and a 1 for the 10-2 leader, then you understand this part. Supposing the scenario was taking place in 1945, what would the 4, 6, 7 need, and what would our 10-2 leader need? If you figured a 4 or less for the squad, and a 2 or less for the 10-2 leader, then you really understand this, and we can move to the next part. Now, how does a panzerfaust hit the target? That formula is straightforward. It starts out at a 10 in the firing unit's hex, and goes down by 2 every hex out. So at a range of 1, the 2 hit is an 8. At 2 hexes, it becomes a 6. And at 3 hexes, it becomes a 4. The second question is, how far can they fire? Pre-June 1944, the maximum range is 1 hex. From June 1944 through December 1944, the range is 2 hexes. In 1945, the range is 3 hexes. Because it has its own ranges, the range modifiers from C5 and C6 don't apply, but moving target, advancing fire, and hindrances do apply. Also, leadership modifiers can be used to aid in the shot. Now, back to our example. The German player has decided to prep fire the Germans by trying for a Faust. The first 4, 6, 7 attempts at panzerfaust check and rolls a 4 and then a 6. It did not have a Faust and then it got pinned. The other squad fared better and rolled a 4 but then a 2 on his second attempt, so he has the Faust. And now he has to fire it at the Sherman. The Sherman tank is 2 hexes away, so the 2 hit number needed is a 6. There is -1 modifier because the Sherman tank is a large target due to the red number of its armor value. Now the German player has to decide to eat the backblast or not. He decides not to eat the backblast, so he has to add +2 to his to-hit roll. He could decide to use the leader DRM, but opts not to. He rolls a 6 with a red 2 and a white 4. Adding the +2 for not eating the backblast brings the roll up to an 8, so German misses the tank. Now the leader attempts to have a panzerfaust. What does he need to have a Faust in 1944? The 10-2 leader needed a 1. He gets his 1 and now has to shoot at the Sherman as well. The German player has decided that the situation is desperate and the tank has to go. He opts to eat the backblast and takes the shot. This time he rolls a 7 with a red 1 and a white 6. He hits the tank in the turret. We now go to table C 7.33. The PF2 kill is a 31. We subtract 8 from it because we hit the turret with the red 1 for a 2 kill number of 23. In essence, anything but a 12 burns the tank, with no crew survival. A 12 would be a dud shell. That's the good news. The bad news is that the red 1 is used on the 1 firepower column to show the effects of the backblast. It is a K/1. Random selection is used, and the German player rolls 3 dice, a 6, a 4, and a 3. The 6 corresponds to the 10-2 leader. He suffers a casualty reduction and is wounded. The wound check is a 5, so he is mortally wounded. Now, the 4-6-7 squads will have to go through a morale check of 1 first because of the K/1, and then a 2 morale check because the 10-2 leader died. One last question. If this scenario was taking place in February 1945, and the Sherman tank was 3 hexes away, what would the 2-hit be if one of the German squads had a panzerfaust, decided not to eat the backblast, and the 10-2 leader helped them fire at the Sherman tank? If you said they needed a 5 or less to hit the tank, then you have the basics of the panzerfaust down. There are several details that have to be added to make this topic complete. First is an infantry cannot subsequent first fire a Faust. Second, attempting a panzerfaust check counts as using a support weapon, which is why squads are limited to 2 attempts per firing phase. Third, on a 2-hit roll of 12, the firing unit suffers a casualty reduction. If it's an inexperienced unit, it suffers a casualty reduction on a 2-hit of 11 or 12. Finally, panzerfausts do not leave residual fire. This concludes our video on panzerfausts. I hope you liked it and found it useful. If you like this and our other videos, like us on YouTube and subscribe to our channel. Please remember that these videos are just meant to be an introduction to give you enough confidence to dive in and have some fun with this great game. Keep playing and don't worry about making mistakes. Perhaps learn from a more experienced player and go to one of the many tournaments out there, like the New York State ASL Championships in Albany, New York, and the Norista in Boxborough, Massachusetts. If you have any thoughts or questions or suggestions, feel free to contact us at jdhobbies@live.com. And like always, thanks for watching.